Hi guys, my name is Katlego Baaitse and welcome to Existential.Kulture. If you don't know me, I'm a filmmaker by vocation. I've been lucky enough to direct some commercials on some really big sets. So when you watch something like Apocalypse Now,
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
You really appreciate the depths and the challenges that must have come with making something that epic that many years ago, before the advent of AI and not that much CG to really do things. Everything was practical and in camera. But this really epic film made many years ago, which still stands up today as one of the best war films ever, has made me think about something. The dehumanization of war. Spoilers ahead for Apocalypse Now, some of Attack on Titan, and some of Dune 2. What is dehumanization? It's the process of depriving a person of positive humanity. And how do we see this in Apocalypse Now? So, I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? There's that famous scene, the Valkyrie scene, which really had me very confused the first time I watched it. We're deep in Vietnam. The US imperial machine, war machine, is at war with the Viet Cong. For whatever reason, it's not really said, but historically we know, right? In this moment, what the film shows you is a village of children playing at a school, presumably because they're doing some cool little exercises. There's a teacher, we see farmers and villagers, everyday people, and that's contrast with this heroic, epic moment with the music.
God, shall we dance?
At the same time, there are moments where the characters, the soldiers in the warplanes and the war choppers, they're not quite as excited. Some of them are very excited. But what we end up seeing is basically a massacre of this village with these epic explosions, again, all in camera because it's back in the day, right? So it's really impressive. But I was very confused the first time I watched it because I'd experienced the song and how it was treated as this fun moment, before I actually watched the movie. And then when you watch the movie, and this is many years ago, when you watch the movie, it's like, why, what's going on here? And this is a trend that continues where people, specifically the Vietnamese people, not even talking about the people at war, the Viet Cong or the guerrilla fighters, the people are increasingly seen as objects or things, even when there's a massacre that happens. So Captain Willard is now on a boat with the ragtag group of soldiers, and they happen upon a fishing boat.
Junk boat, Captain. We're going to take a routine check.
They search the boat reluctantly. One of the soldiers gets really tense, and they end up massacring basically people who just were carrying on about their day. How the dehumanization comes here. First of all, Captain Willard is willing to finish off, quote unquote, one of the survivors of this massacre because he wants to continue on his mission. But we're left really with the soldiers' perspective, and we see them descend into madness and have all the issues that they have. The only time we ever interact with the Vietnamese people is when they are objects or when they are victims. We even see the French perspective, which was, again, I didn't know the history of this war or the country, but it struck me that even though Captain Willard ends up finding Kurtz, which is his mission to find him and kill him, even when he ends up finding Kurtz amongst the people in this deep in the villages of Vietnam, we still never really feel them as their person or from their perspective. And it struck me how dehumanizing the film is, really, not intentionally, because it is an anti-war film and an amazing and epic one at that. It's just something that really struck me, how dehumanization works, where we don't even see the perspective of people who are suffering this victimhood. And it also is, of course, got to do with the economics of it, the fact that, they need to make money from these films. What would a film look like if it was from the Vietnamese Viet Cong perspective? Enter the legend, the GOAT, George Lucas in Star Wars. And it's really fun to think that this is exactly what it is, right? The ragtag group of people. And he says it himself in this interview with George Lucas and James Cameron, two goats talking to each other.
The science, it's the how do the people react to all those things. Yeah.
How do they accommodate them?
You did something very interesting if you think about it. The good guys are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we call those guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen, we call them Al-Qaeda.
When I did it, they were Viet Cong.
Exactly. So were you thinking of that at the time?
Yes.
So it was a very anti-authoritarian, very kind of 60s against the man kind of thing, nested deep inside of a fantasy.
Or a colonial, we're fighting the largest empire in the world.
Right.
Let's continue this journey on dehumanization and war and brainwashing, really. And we'll talk a little bit about, it's really impossible to spoil this because the series is so goddamn long. Attack on Titan, and probably the most hated character in AOT, Gabby. Now, how we see dehumanization in Attack on Titan, we know Eren begins his journey to his own self-hatred and hatred of others. But it begins with Reiner, really, when he kicks the wall in, because he saw the people of Paradis as the island devils. He goes through his arc and he starts to live with them because he's infiltrating them. He starts to see their personhood, right? He attributes them as normal people. He goes home, he's having lunch with his dinner with his family, and there we have his cousin Gabby and his family, how they see the people of Paradis as the island devils. So they've othered themselves from people that they are Eldians, right? If you know Attack on Titan, you know they are Eldians. So they've othered the Eldians, even though they themselves are Eldians. They see the Eldians as the island devils. We see Gabby Jr., how she in fact frees herself from the brainwashing. If you look at Apocalypse Now, if you look at Star Wars, where we humanize the people who are fighting against the Empire, and if you look at Attack on Titan, where it's almost like a snake eating its own head. Where is this in modern cinema today? The only thing I can really think of, I know there must be others, but is Dune 2 specifically. If you look at the Harkonnen, you look at how the Harkonnen treat the Fremen, it's almost like intuitively we understand that they don't see them as anything. And especially when you see how Fade Rautha, I can't say his goddamn name, Fade Rautha Harkonnen, how he behaves, and I'll end it with this because there's no real conclusion to what I think. When you dehumanize others, you dehumanize yourself, and I think Dr. Gabor Mate, who's an incredible philosopher, said it better than I can. And you can see it in Dune 2 as well, how the Harkonnen treat each other is because they've dehumanized everybody else, so therefore they must dehumanize each other and themselves to be able to inflict that on others. And it makes me wonder what is happening in the world when there is a lot of dehumanizing happening.
You humiliated me. Kiss or die.
That's it for today. This is Existential Culture. Let's get it.